Hey guys, what's going on? Banana156 here with another video. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. I do read all comments, so make sure to leave one. And yeah, let's get right into the video. So this video is the first video in a series on geopolitical topics that I'm doing. It's not really going to follow any rhyme, or it's not really going to follow anything like the fascism series, but it's just going to be some geopolitical videos. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about some wars that could happen in the future, specifically water wars, but I will talk about a few aging wars as well. But now, if we look at history, since World War II, it's been an unprecedented amount of peace. And if you look at most of the history of the world, most of it has been war or preparing for war. So it is completely naive to assume that war will not break out. So like I was saying, it's naive to believe that there won't be war in the future. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out there because I've already talked about the myth that we're at the end of history and how people somehow believe that, and how everything will just be the same. But yeah, the first group of wars I'm going to talk about are water wars. Now the first war I'm going to talk about is Ethiopia and Egypt. So Ethiopia is currently damming up the Blue Nile, which is the Nile's main source. So, and Egypt is 95% dependent on the Nile, and so if the Nile gets blocked up and gets like taken 30% of capacity is taken off, that means that a huge amount of farmers and people will be displaced that live next to the Nile and rely on the Nile for farming, and it could completely destroy Egypt as a whole. Now, this could also lead, now the most conservative numbers I found is 2 million people being displaced, and that would still be one of the largest refugee crises of all time. And now around the average of what I found was 30 million people being displaced, which could completely alter European culture and could completely change Europe as a whole, because 30 million refugees coming is crazy. That's like the biggest refugee crisis of all time, and it could be even more. Egypt has a population of 100 million, and it could be even more than 30 million, but that's the result if they dam it up. And now Egypt and Ethiopia failed to reach an agreement not this past August, 2 Augusts ago. So Ethiopia will continue damming up the Nile without stop. So, and Egypt, having a pretty weak military, having to fight across Sudan, who is on Ethiopia's side, would be a death sentence for the country. I feel like Egypt is one of the countries that could fall, and in one of my videos about countries that will fall, I will talk about how Egypt is likely to fall. But yeah, that's the Egypt-Ethiopia water war. The next one, and I'm not going to go very in depth with these. I just want to give the basic idea of them. The next water war I want to talk about is Turkey and Iraq. So Iraq, like Egypt, is very dependent on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and Turkey is currently damming both those rivers up. And now, in my video on what countries will become superpowers, I will talk about Turkey more. But Turkey, if they dam up these rivers, that will give them complete supremacy over the entire area, because most of the countries around them are either failed states, incredibly weak, or not a threat. And if they dam up Iraq essentially becomes a puppet state because they are incredibly dependent on those rivers for their water source. So yeah, and they very well could fight to keep their independence from Turkey, because Turkey could take will dam up those rivers if they can, and will maintain supremacy over the entire area. And this is not an uncommon thing either. So I did some research on this, and in the most conservative measurements, 673 of the last 1,000 years of Iraqi history have been spent under Turkish control. So this is nothing new, and it seems like Turkey's trying to make some moves to take control of that area. So now, the next water war that I want to talk about, this is the most dangerous one, and could easily result in World War III. So China is building tons of dams in the Himalayas, damming up things like the Ganges River and the Brahmaputra, which is India's main water source. And now, First, let's get a sense for the geopolitical area. China has allies completely surrounding India. They're allies with Nepal, Burma, Pakistan, uh, all the areas around China, all the areas around India are Chinese allies, and basically every country on continental Asia is a Chinese ally, and that means that China is trying to take the whole continent essentially here, and they're also worried about something else, which I'll go over in a sec. But China damming up those rivers would lead to India, if India doesn't fight back, becoming a puppet state like all the others would, and that would lead to them having complete control of the Asian continent, which would be incredible for China, which isn't good for the rest of the world, basically. But yeah, but now what's the other reason China's trying to dam up these rivers? Well, China, the northern part of China, is going to begin losing water very quickly here. And a lot of Chinese people will be displaced because of climate change in the future. So they want to secure water so they can not feed their people, but drink their people. I don't know how to describe it, but they want to secure water for the amount of people that will be displaced, and there will be water shortages in China in the next 20 years, or even 10. So they're trying to prepare for that. Not only that, China is the other thing that I mentioned, and China is allies with everyone on the continent besides India. India is a U.S. ally, which it makes it the only, which is bad for China. And if China could take control of India, that would be very good for them, obviously. But India being a U.S. ally makes this very dangerous, because the U.S. may not want China to have complete supremacy over the continent, which could lead to the U.S. engaging in the war, because India would lose badly in a war to China. So the U.S. may engage and may have its allies come and fight with them, which could be the beginning of World War III. And now I'm going to talk about World War III more in a World War III video that I'm going to come out with soon. But yeah, and regardless of World War III, India and China's population is 2.8 billion. The world population in 1940, when World War II began, was 2.4 billion. The casualties would be immense. It would be the war with the most casualties in human history if it were to happen. And not to mention that India and China are both nuclear powers. So if they fight, nuclear war could break out. I doubt that it would, but that's the most dangerous water war, because World War III could happen from it, a nuclear war could happen from it, and the whole fate of the Asian continent is there, and potentially the fate of China and all Chinese allies there is reliant on that war as well, along with the fate of all U.S. allies if the U.S. decides to get involved. Now, those are all the water wars that I'll be talking about today, and the next couple wars aren't going to be specific wars, but how wars could start, and they will be mainly circulating around China and Russia. So, I'm sure you all know this, but China and Russia went to communism, and communism is incredibly good at some not very good things for the country. So the failures of the Russian or I guess the Soviet Union and the Chinese governments were that they pushed people into urban areas too quickly, and while the country was too poor, this is mainly about the Soviet Union, but they pushed people into urban areas and into working in factories while the country was too poor to support them, leading to drastically lower birth rates. Like since Stalin first took power when he first took power, the average woman had 6 children in Russia. By 1940, they had 2.2. So it went from 6.2 to 2.2 kids per woman. That's an incredible drop in birth rate for a not very wealthy country that it doesn't have the infrastructure to support it. Because what does that mean? That means the elderly population will grow faster, and the elderly population will become more prevalent. And that's fine in countries like the US or in European countries because they have the economies to support them. But the Soviet Union doesn't, or Russia doesn't today, and their birth rate is still dropping to this day because of how terrible it is to live there. And now China's one child policy did essentially the same thing. The birth rate has slowed down drastically because of it, and it leads to a thing where they have every generation, and it is leading to a growing elderly population. And I just want to bring this up. The average age of a person in China is older than the average age of the person in the U.S. That is bad for China, because if the population becomes too elderly, that means that you won't have an effective military anymore. That your military won't be nearly as effective, and that is why I believe China and Russia will become much more reckless in the next few years. So, yeah, the aging is an incredibly bad thing for both these countries, because they don't have the economy to support an incredibly elderly population, especially with how big of a population China has. They won't be able to support them, and Russia is a failing power, or a declining power. And also, another potential war that could happen, this is a bonus war between Russia and China, is a lot of Chinese people will be displaced because of climate change, and that could lead to China trying to take Siberia, so all the people in China that were displaced have a place to go. So China and Russia could fight with one another. And not to mention the aging and the demographics becoming worse and worse for China and Russia, I could see China and Russia becoming very reckless and doing some very reckless things. And now now Russia, I don't know, they could get in a war because they're idiots. But the main thing with China, the only way that they'll get in a war is if they don't get the Silk Road 2.0. I forgot the exact name of it, but this road is trying to allow them to transport all their goods on land rather than in the sea, because the U.S. is the largest naval power, and the U.S. and Europe control the seas. But if they can get the road, if they can transport all their goods across Central Asia, then yes, they could. They could not have to worry about traveling things by sea, and create the Eurasia Trade Alliance, which I feel like if they do that, a war, China doing wars because they're aging, won't happen. But if they don't get to it, and if they don't do it, if they don't get it done in time, a war between China could happen, or a war with someone else in China could happen, just because China's aging and they know that they have to act fast to become main players in the world for a long time. But yeah, so yeah, that was the video. Thank you all for watching. Yeah, remember to subscribe, like, dislike, comment, do all that stuff. I do read all comments, so make sure to leave one. I hope you guys enjoy geopolitical videos. If you enjoy them, make sure to leave a comment, make sure to like the video so I know that you guys enjoy them. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for all the recent support, and I will see you guys